Hello, I'd like to introduce you to Butterfly Cottage. The lady sitting out in front of the cottage loves birds too, and obviously flowers. Butterflies are nice, especially because they're like flying flowers. This journal has 3 signatures and it is slightly wider than I usually make, so 7 inches wide, 8.5 inches tall. It has a velvet on the outside, and it's got about 1 3/4 inch spine, almost 2. The dangle has colors that match the colors in the cover, has some beads as well, and the dangle is removable. You can take it off this button, but the button stays unless you want to cut it off. A vintage doily, a couple of them layered, and some fabric in behind here that hints at the colors that match this that will be inside, and it goes with the picture as well. A couple of my butterflies on the front. You add a little bit of layer and color. And the tie here is attached to the journal. It's been tea-dyed and crumpled up to look weathered like a cottage. Put a lot of buttons in this one, and the color that seemed to be the best for this butterfly cottage was off-white, kind of ivory color, and they're vintage. This is a fabric that's sewn, goes right underneath the signatures and adds to the strength to the journal, and it's been stitched on as well. I love a big pocket because then you can add things, maybe receipts or a card that you got. In the meantime, I put in some things for journaling in. A little booklet here, very cottage core style. And this one here is a copy of one of my little geranium paintings. I recently sold a journal that had the original in it, and I quickly took a picture before I sent it off because it's one of the ones I really like. I actually have geraniums blooming in my laundry window right now because I overwintered them. So butterflies and lace and flowers, lots of them. And these little pinned on buttons can be moved around. And I think that was with coffee and stencil. You have a choice of bookmarks that you can use, and they both have writing space on the back, and they're just held on there with a paper clip. It's easy to take off. Here's a little journaling envelope. Open it up, and it's got lots of writing space. I like to journal, so I like to include lots of writing space in the journals that I make. And I enjoyed using black thread throughout because it really makes the sewing stand out. And then it goes with the stamping as well. Here's a little journal card. And every cottage needs a teapot. Here's a neat old button here. Here's a real mushroom stamp, and I thought it went nice with the cluster, earthy colors. And there's a little journaling notebook. I thought this went well with the Cottage vintage clippers, hedge clippers. And it's a lovely little journaling spot. Made that from a card. There's one of my little bouquets that I did with watercolor. That's a copy of it. Little cluster to match the paper. And a journaling spot. And I got this idea from another junk journal maker and rustic journals. You'll see the full idea later on in here, but this is kind of a offspring of her idea. I have button jars, so what I did is I took a picture of them, and then I'm able to make them bigger or smaller and use them for a journaling card. Hers were from I guess from a digital, but I didn't have a digital, and I thought, why not take pictures of my own? So I think this is one of the jars I got from my grandmother. She gave me a bunch of them years ago, and I kept them. And one of them I used for a button jar. And then I just edited the picture to make it look less, real. And I also tea-dyed it. And then I glued a butterfly from the butterfly book onto it. That was fun. And you'll see what else I made coming up in the journal. One of my butterflies, perfect spot to hold a little journaling card in the center. And I thought this was perfect for in here. Picture, postcard of cottages. Lots of buttons and lace. This little cluster put there to match the paper. Put a journaling spot on there too. This is tea-dyed scrapbook paper, which I thought went perfect in here. Oh, and I had fun putting this together. I love this button. Oh. And this here I made with a napkin that I put over top tea-dyed. It's thicker than cardstock. It's from packaging I've had for a while, and I knew that it would make a great tag. Doesn't matter how thin I thought you put on, because this was thick enough on its own. But I did this with matte Mod Podge. It looks really old. And this here, I just added this on here. I just recently organized some of my scraps of things. So in this little box here, I keep little bits of this and that, and I'm finding it perfect for making clusters. So there's more clusters than usual in here since I recently organized my stuff. It says on here, he has made everything beautiful in its time. So even little discarded scraps can be made into something beautiful. Lithograph, butterflies, button, and this is a copy of one of my little watercolor pictures. Thought it went nice with this paper over here. And there's one of my little sketches printed onto a piece of vintage music paper. Ooh, I love this old button too. And this butterfly is on the door of a little hidden journaling spot. You can put other things in there too. There's room. And there's a little journaling card tucked behind it as well. Here we have a flip out with a little journaling spot there. And on this side, tea-dyed calendar paper with journaling on both sides. And this little envelope opens up, and there's places to write on it, and a little teeny notebook. That was fun to make. On to the second signature now. Picture from a children's book. There's a little butterfly on it. And on this side too. Journaling tag and space to write here as well. And here we have an altar paper clip with a vintage heart-shaped button. I made a little journaling card that also has journaling space on it and inside. And another old button. It's so old, if you look close you can see it's almost cracked. And there's room you can write on the back as well. I think that's a vintage paper clip too. I try to keep them separate in my stash because I have new paper clips, but then I have old paper clips that I've got from secondhand stores. And there's a journaling card here with some tea-dyed tow on it. And this was done with a spray bottle with coffee, instant coffee, and using a stencil or a plastic doily that I have. Haven't done that for a while. I'm starting to run out of those. Need to do some more. A vintage button. Oh, this one here is cute. And this is vintage lace. And a little booklet. Some writing space. Little tuck spot made from a full stamp that I made. And on this side we have some journaling space here. And then this goes down and there's some more journaling space under here too. A secret journaling spot. This has a lovely cottage by, I don't know if that's a river or a creek or a pond, but I'd love to see inside that house. Cottages always capture my heart, my attention. Put it this way so we can see the cottage. There we are. And that's, I think this is vintage trim too. That's definitely a vintage button. Oh, love those ones with a little extra designs on them. Just lift this up and see if you can see that better. Oh, I wondered if that was going to happen. This is the very last thing I added to the book. There. Yeah. I glued the butterfly on after I added some color to it. So I got to take that off there very carefully. Oh yeah, she's definitely not going anywhere, this butterfly. So that's a good sign. I added some hemp string onto the butterfly so that the antennae won't come off. And then I glued the whole thing on there. Let's see if I can just get that little piece with, what can I use? I'll use, yeah, this seam ripper comes in handy for everything. I'll use this to grab it, that little bit of paper out of there. Yeah. Maybe cut that too. And now test to make sure she's okay. So next time when I glue it, see with the other butterflies I've got in here, I glued them the opposite direction, so that wasn't a problem. Oh, looks like she's good. Okay. I didn't wait longer because the sun's going to be shining right in this window soon, and then it's hard to film. And today's Friday, and I was hoping to get this out yesterday, and I don't like to work on the weekends. I like to play. I thought this green button went perfect, the green in these cards. And there's a little cluster picking up colors from both the cards, made from that little box I was mentioning. Vintage lace here, journaling card, little button on there that has a slight hint of pink, just like this has a slight hint of pink. Another little cluster made from that box to match this. a little envelope with journaling card in there. It flips open, give extra writing space. And then I put paper on the back, tea-dyed paper on the back to make extra writing space. And there's room in there to put receipts or notes or whatever you want to keep. Here's that idea that I got this from Rustic Journals. And it was a digital that she used, 3 of them, and then she cut them out and put them together to do this. So what I did is I took some pictures of my jars by themselves and together and printed it out and then tea-dyed it and glued it onto cardstock, and there we go. Yeah, this is just some of my buttons. And this is for writing on either side. But yeah, I really liked what she did. It's just really nice work. That's got a couple of pages there. And you can write on the back, discover. Vintage button there. Looks like it's a mother of pearl one. And this is a copy of watercolor paper I've done. Ruffle, an old button. Tuck spot, a card. Children's book page, and this has a little old button on it. And into the third signature, little cottage with a heart. Oh, I love cottages. I like this side view. How you can see the upstairs and the door there. One side of my house is a bit like that. It's my favorite angle of a house. This, I think, is a photograph, and it was from a secondhand store, so I'm not sure the history behind that. And this little spot here for writing. I got this idea from a journal that I bought from another junk journaler. And this idea of putting paper napkin, you take it down to the single layer and putting it onto freezer paper. I didn't have any freezer paper and it wasn't in our store, but then I realized I had this brown paper that had a shiny side, so I tried ironing it onto that, and oh my goodness, it works. I mean, it's stuck on there. So yeah, I'll probably be doing more of that. In the meantime, I sewed in some more paper into it to make extra journaling space. Yeah, that's a napkin made into paper by ironing it onto, I guess freezer paper is what you're supposed to use, but I didn't have any. I just have this brown paper that's shining on one side, and it works. So, yay! And that idea I got from Kathy's garden. Here's a picture I took of a butterfly that was in my driveway. Makes a nice tuck spot. And then you open it up. There's a butterfly from a butterfly book. Vintage, dark brown rickrack to match the butterfly. And tuck spot here. Tea-dyed card for journaling. Here's another little journaling booklet with a mother of pearl button and some vintage seam binding. I love this color. Made into a little ruffle. Some stamping. This card I made using a picture from the butterfly book and some vintage lace. Put it on some tea-dyed cardstock, and I like how it dyed unevenly. Looks really old that way. And vintage lace. And another little journaling card that matched the colors on this page. Here's a cluster made from my little cluster box. Maybe that's what I should call it, my cluster box. And some flat back pearls on some purple velvet. Goes nice with this paper. And on this side, butterfly with a very old mother of pearl button. It's falling apart. And some vintage seam binding here. And I don't know if this is vintage, the lace, but I suspect it might be because it came in with a bunch of old stuff. And this card is made into a journal card. A little bit of bling. And that's a vintage paper clip I've altered so that it doesn't scratch the card. And it has this lovely old button on it. Oh my, I just love that button. Little flower. And this is a journaling tag in the back, or you can use it for a bookmark. Sometimes it's good to have a couple of spots marked in your journal if you're comparing things that you wrote about and you want to know, okay, well, what was it that happened on that day? And then you're looking back and forth, you don't want to lose your spot. Yeah, see, this butterfly is this direction. I guess either way is okay. I just have to make sure that it dries before I close the book. Wendy, yeah. And this picture here is from a butterfly book made into a journal card. Here's another little journaling spot. Card inside. You can journal on it as well. Oh, I love the feel of this old paper. It's been tea-dyed, but you can tell it's good quality paper. And some writing on space on the back as well. And here's a cluster made from the cluster box. Called a paper clip for this little mini journaling booklet. And I love the feel of this paper. It's almost like fabric, like satin. It's from an old card. And again, a picture of cottages. Artwork by Vincent van Gogh. It's a Reader's Digest postcard, but I thought it went perfect with this book. And I like the colors, and you can see a little bit of blue over here too. Crinkle paper, love that. Here's a little booklet for journaling too. And I did some stitchings to hold on some tea-dyed tulle behind it. Vintage button. Oh, and speaking of vintage buttons, this one here is lovely, and the back is interesting too. I think this is vintage lace. It makes good pockets. And at the very back, we have a lovely little butterfly notebook. Got one signature in it, hand sewn in, and then I used some machine stitching to put this tea-dyed fabric on. And it's got some tea-dyed tulle behind the fussy cut butterfly and thistle. So when she's not tied up, oh my goodness, she is wide. Now I just want to go back and check on that butterfly. Which one was it? The strawberry one. How you doing? You're good? Yep, you're good. I left these on for, things could be added on, but because I've got so many buttons in here hanging by the pins and dangles on here and on here, I didn't think they really needed it, but I left them there. In fact, you know, person can always add some more. Here they are. Can always add some more things on. But as I was saying, this, when it's not tied up, it's pretty chunky. I always surprise myself how chunky they get. I'm going to put this away. Cats don't get that. They like to, you leave something small on the desk, they'll use it as like a little hockey puck. Yeah, of course a Canadian would say that. And then it ends up under some furniture somewhere. You find the weirdest things under the furniture when I'm vacuum cleaning. Oh, I love butterflies, and I loved making this one. And as always, I spent way too much time working on it, but it's hard to stop. And when you get started, and I want to feel like when I turn the pages that it feels like there's nothing left out, like there isn't a spot where you go, oh, well, I could add this there. So I kind of just keep going until it doesn't happen anymore. Sometimes I stop before that, but rarely. Yeah. I hope you have a nice weekend. I hope I inspired you. And do check out Kathy's Garden for ideas. And Rustic Journal. She does such a lovely job on her journals. And when I noticed my friend back on her channel doing her journals, the one that I got the idea for that little tied closed booklet. Yeah, then I should put a link to her too when I see she's back. But in the meantime, take care, enjoy spring. I know I am. I'm hoping to do some gardening this weekend, a little teeny bit this week. But it's supposed to be nice weather, so I don't have an excuse not to. So let me know what you think. Did I put too many butterflies in? Not enough butterflies? Or just right? Take care. I guess it could also be called hope, because that's what it says on here. Bye.